Hey everyone, this is Friedel Hakureja Raven. I'm here with my recap and review of Claw, season number 4, episode number 5, which is titled Comeuppance. Now, I actually thought that the final season of Claw was going to give us 2 episodes per week, but turns out that starting from episode number 5, we're going to get a single episode per week. Now, I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it because one episode of a week makes it easier for me to cover it. But then again, I was enjoying getting to watch a double dose of Claws every week. But you know what? It is what it is. We just have to go along with it. So, Comeuppance, episode number 5, it opens up where the previous episode left off with Jenn and Bryce trying to get to meet their kids, but the social worker is like, nah, they're under the government's custody right now, so you can't meet them, you can't see them, you can't talk to them. And Jenn is like, there has to be another way. And we have, and Desna is also with them trying to vouch for them, basically saying that it was just a misunderstanding, that it was a mistake that won't happen again. And these are two parents that really love their children, but a social worker is like, you know what, we have to follow procedure. Now, did you end up seeing Brienne and Baylor being escorted to another room, and Jen calls out for them, and she is being a bit offensive towards the social worker. The social worker is like, you know what, you better not make the situation escalate into an arrest to make the situation worse. So my advice to you is go home. And yeah, Jenn and Bryce do have to go home. But so they go over to Desna's, and Desna is trying to support them. Polly is there as well. And Desna is like, you know what, Jenn, I won't rest until I figure out a way to get the kids back to you. And this is where they're like, you know what, I'm the godmother, right? So what if I take the kids? And Bryce and Jenn are like, you'll do that for us, Desna? And Desna's like, yeah, of course I'll do that for you. Those girls are mine too, you know, in a way. We are a family, we are a crew. So everyone agrees that Desna should take custody of the children. Then we cut to Anne. She's working on something on her laptop. So Jerry comes in, and Jerry is like, Anne, I have to talk to you about something. And Anne is like, okay, what is it? And this is where Jerry actually tells Anne that, you know what, even though they have been selling a good amount of the fentanyl patches, Anne has been sending them to very dangerous neighborhoods, which already have other gangs that are selling their own products, and it's basically rival gangs who don't appreciate Anne's employees and Uncle Daddy's employees selling stuff in those areas. And yeah, but Anne is like, okay, Jerry, what do you want from me? And Jerry's like, well, considering the risk that the employees are taking, the employees would like a raise. And Anne is like, you ain't getting no raise. But Jerry's like, you know what? Either you give us a raise or we walk off. And Anna's like, okay, so why are you making this personal? Is it because I refuse to continue being intimate with you in the previous episode? And Cherry's like, no, that's not it. It's just that the employees are worried. We are putting our lives at risk. One of my girls was even shot at during her previous round. So, Anne, you need to you need to rethink my offer, because again, if you don't increase our pay, we will be walking away. Oh, that rhymed. So Uncle Daddy is like, you know what, Anne, I do understand the predicament that you're in, and I have to say that you don't have a lot of experience when it comes to managing people like I do. So sometimes you have to give them a bit of a treat to make them keep tagging along with you. So you know what, you might have to accept Jerry's offer. And these two are still talking about the situation, but then Uncle Daddy gets a call, and Uncle Daddy is like, I'll be right there. So it turns out that as Desna, Jen, and Bryce are trying to talk to the judge to get the government to give custody of the girls to Desna, Daddy ended up being called because he's next of kin, and the judge is like, yeah, the judge, I have to, yeah, the judge. There's another interesting scene between the judge and Polly later on in the episode, but yeah, the judge is not a fan of Bryce and Jen. Basically, people like Bryce and Jen, and he has his reasons, which we do get into in a bit. But yeah, Uncle Daddy is the next of kin, so Uncle Daddy has been given custody of the girls, and he walks them off. And Bryce is like, "Thank you, Uncle Daddy." And yeah, Jen and does understand that, you know what, even though Uncle Daddy has his issues, Uncle Daddy does love the girls and he wouldn't put his grandchildren in any danger. And yeah, this is also where Anne is like, hey, I'll look after your girls too. Clay loves them, and yeah, I'll watch out for them too. And Jen is like, why are you being nice to us after everything that's happened between us? And Anne is like, well, even though we lost what we had, I still value our time together, and anything, and considering what's between me and Desna, it has nothing to do with the girls, so I look after them. And Jen is like, okay, thank you, Anne. So they're at the salon, and this is where one of Desna's recruits comes in, and she's very worried because yeah, she learned that Bambi got murdered, and she's worried that it's basically a rival gang who ended up murdering Bambi because they don't like Desna's team selling drugs in their areas, and yeah, Desna doesn't want to talk about her business in front of Georgia, and she's like, Georgia, take this money and get us a bucket from that shrimp place. And Georgia's like, well, that's very far away. And Desna's like, that's the point. Now go. So after she's gone, this is where Desna tries to calm her employee down. She's like, you know what? Bring everyone here. I know that you're all worried, and let's have a meeting. And the employee's like, yeah, I can do that. So we cut to Uncle Daddy spending some time with the girls. They have a whole lot of puppies to play with, and they are enjoying themselves. And this is where he gets a call from Jen, and Jen is like, hey, Uncle Daddy, Bryce and I wanted to come meet the girls, make them understand the situation and all of that stuff, so we're just giving you a heads up. And Uncle Daddy is like, Miss Jen, that's not going to happen. And Jen is like, wait, what? And Uncle Daddy is like, well, you heard the social worker, she said that you are under no circumstances uh, will be allowed to have any contact with the girls, and I can't allow that because I'm not the one who breaks the rules. And basically Uncle Daddy, like we have seen Uncle Daddy throughout this season, wanting Jen to stop working for Desna, and I just knew it. I just knew that he was going to use the girls in order to keep on going forward with his agenda. And yeah, that's exactly what happens because Uncle Daddy is like, well, you stop working for Desna and stand with your family, then you'll get to meet your girls. And Jen doesn't appreciate that one bit. And Bryce comes in to calm her down, and he's like, you know what? Even though Uncle Daddy is a D, he is a marshmallow when it comes to family. He loves the girls, so the girls will be all right, and we just have to give Uncle Daddy some time. He'll come around. And yeah, and he's like, baby, let's go home. And Jen is like, no, I can't go home, the house is empty, I just can't go back there without the girls. And Desna's like, well, you both can stay here for as long as it takes, as long as you need. And that's the and Jen and Bryce and Jen really appreciate that. That Desna ended up doing that for them. And yeah, Desna walks off because she has the meeting to go to. And Jen and Bryce try to support each other, and Bryce is like, hey, think of it as a honeymoon, as a vacation, and we'll just have fun or try to have fun. And I have to say that both actors did a very good job showcasing a whole lot of emotion, showcasing a whole lot of what Bryce and Jen are going through without their daughter. So kudos to them. So Uncle Daddy and Anne ended up bringing the girls to the park, and they are playing in the park. And as they are playing, these two are also talking because Anne is like, "Well, I'm very surprised when it comes to how good you are with Brienne and Baylor." And Uncle Daddy is like, "Well, I've always wanted kids, but I couldn't have them because of a nasty case of syphilis." And he's like, "But it worked out because I ended up raising Bryce and Roller." And yeah, he's like, you know what, Anne, I think that you'll be a good mother too. And Anne is like, well, it's very expensive to be a mom these days. So as these two are talking, this is where they see Polly and her crew walking up to them. And yeah, Polly and her crew are like, or maybe it happened. Did I not get a screenshot? I'm not really sure. But yeah, Polly and her crew walk up to Anne and Uncle Daddy. Or maybe it happened a bit later. We'll get to it. So we cut to the nail salon, and Axel comes in, and Axel wanted to say thank you to Polly for helping his friend in the previous episode, and he ended up gifting Polly a very expensive necklace, and Polly appreciates the gesture. She's really into Axel, yeah, which can get messy, but yeah, she is very thankful for the gift, and she's like, but you know what, Axel, you can't stay here because Desna is going to have a meeting, and she can't have a meeting in front of Axel. So she's like, and Polly is like, you know what, Axel, we'll talk about this later. So this is also where Polly ends up telling Virginia that, you know what, I think that I'm falling for Axel, and I've stopped thinking of him as my next mark. I might end up. I do think that Polly's story with Axel is moving towards the two getting married, and Axel's kids trying to stop the marriage. I think that's what's going to happen. But anyway, Desna is having a meeting, and this is where Desna is reassuring her crew that, you know what, on my watch, none of you are in any danger. None of you will be killed or murdered. This is also where she's like, we're going to look after Bambi because we look after our own. So I'm going to start a monthly stipend for her kids so that they can be looked after. So I want the sales to kept to keep going up. And I'm like, oh Desna, you're still a businesswoman, huh? So yeah, it all works out, and her recruits are very happy that Desna is in the corner and she is looking after them. So yeah, the crew walks up to Uncle Daddy and Anne, and yeah, Polly is like, oh, okay, so what did you guys decide? And before these two can further talk, they notice that Brienne and Baylor have gone missing. And I was like, again, can Brienne and Baylor not stay at the same place for more than 10 minutes? Like, what the heck, Brienne and Baylor? So they have disappeared again. So Desna is checking her phone to see if Bambi's death ended up making the news, and it turns out that she's safe for now. Tyson comes in, and Tyson is like, "Hey, Desna, I want more responsibility. I want to be a bigger part of your business, and we can look after our crew." And she's like, not our crew. It's my crew." And Tyson is like, "Why can't it be ours?" And as these two are talking, one of Desna's recruits comes in, and she's like, Desna, I have to talk to you because there's this man in the neighborhood that I deal in, and he basically threatened me, and I'm scared. I don't want to end up like Bambi. And Desna's like, hey, you know what? I'll go to the park with you. Let's talk to this guy that threatened you, and we'll go from there. And if that doesn't happen, well, if you notice that very tall man, she's talking about Tyson, and she basically tells her recruit that she is going to hire, or she has already hired Tyson as their bodyguard. So it turns out that the police ended up finding Brienne and Baylor, Uncle Daddy and Anne are at the police station as well. Jenn and Bryce come over, and yeah, Jenn and Bryce are very, very angry that Uncle Daddy ended up losing the girls. And this is also where Jenn is like, hey, Anne, you are at fault too, because even though you have this vendetta against Desna, the fact is that you don't realize that you're basically turning into Desna as well. And yeah, I don't recognize the person that you're becoming. So Desna is there as well to talk to the social worker. The social worker is like, you know what? After what happened with Uncle Daddy and the girls disappearing again, we have no other choice but to put the girls in the foster care system, and that really breaks Bryce and Jenn, because they do know about the foster care system and the faults that it has, and they don't want their kids to go through it, and because they also know what Desna went through as a child. But yeah, the social worker is like, I can't help you, so you may leave. This is where Uncle Daddy is like, hey, Anne, you know what? It's also your fault that Brienne and Baylor ended up disappearing because you were so busy talking to Cherry and her crew that yeah, we didn't notice the kids missing. And Anne is like, well, it's not my fault. But Uncle Daddy is like, well, I see it as your fault. Okay, so you better repent. You better repent. Which she did. Which she did near the end of the episode. So Polly decides to ask Axel for help to get Brienne and Baylor back. So both of them go and talk to the judge, and the judge. So basically, the judge actually has an issue with people like Jenn and Bryce, and he's basically like, you know what, people like them, they are the one who are gaming the system because they can't take care of their own children. And yeah, Polly is, yeah, she's lost. She doesn't necessarily know what to make of the judge, but yeah, she realizes that the judge is not going to help them with this. And she basically ends up slapping the judge, and the judge is like, well, you regret this. And he puts her in jail. So Bryce and Jen are at Desna's place and they're trying to support each other, but they don't know how. And this is where Jen is like, you know what? It's very difficult for me to breathe. The pain is too much. I don't know how I'm going to move forward. And yeah, she's like, you know what? I'm going to take a pill. And Bryce is like, don't do it, Jen. Jen, don't do it. Don't do it. Do it. I don't want you to become a pill junkie. And she's like, no, I'm not becoming a pill junkie. I'm just coping. And she ends up taking one of the pills that Desna's business is selling. And I'm like, oh, Jen, don't. But yeah, Bryce is like, you know what, how I'm going to cope? He ends up punching the mirror, and I'm like, that mirror belongs to Desna, Bryce, and you just broke it. So there's blood coming out of his hand. Jen walks up, and yeah, this is where they end up being intimate with each other. And Virginia is at the salon and she's putting the pills in the little nail polish bottles. And this is where Georgia comes in. And Virginia tries to say that the pills are actually birth control pills. And Georgia's like, hey, I can see what you guys are doing. And I'm the one who ended up stopping that thief that other night. And he basically told me why he was here. He was here to steal drugs. So I know what Desna and your crew are doing, and I want in. And this is also where Virginia ends up telling Georgia about accidentally killing Bambi. And Georgia's like, yeah, now you have to tell me everything now. Spill the tea. So Desna ends up going to meet this guy who was at the park who ended up threatening one of her employees, and it turns out that this guy is actually selling uppers. He puts them in juice. Varla is there as well. He puts them in juice and he's selling them for $20. And the fact is that he doesn't want Desna's employee to be selling downers at the park because he's the one who's selling uppers. And he's like, you know what? You can leave this territory. It's mine. And this is where Desna, being a businesswoman, she's like, you know what? I have something stronger. I have something stronger than your benzos. And this is where she hooks him up. And yeah, he's working for him now, for her now. He's basically one of her clients. So as Desna is making her way out of the park, this is where she notices Brienne and Baylor in another car with a woman, and she decides to follow them. And I'm like, of course she would do that. I would basically do the same thing if I was in Desna's shoes. And yeah, she follows them to a house. Brienne and Baylor do look happy, and the entire scene brings up some bad memories for Desna when she was a kid and she and Dean were being abused by the social worker, and she doesn't want the same thing to happen with Brienne and Baylor. But yeah, they seem happy. The girls seem happy. So Polly comes in and she tells Virginia about being in jail and how Axel got her out. And yeah, I think that Axel continues to just be impressed with Polly. And yeah, Polly notices that something is up and she's like, Virginia, Georgia, what are you hiding from me? And this is where Virginia is like, well, I told Georgia about what we do for Desna. And he's like, oh no, you all. And yeah, she's also like, I also told her about Bambi. And yeah, it's bad. It's bad because Polly is like, you better not hide this from Desna because hiding stuff from Desna doesn't work. It never works, so you have to be truthful to her. And Virginia is like, you know what, I'll try. So Anne and Jerry end up going to the neighborhood that Jerry was talking about when she said that it's very dangerous for her crew. And Anne was like, you know what, I want to see that danger for myself. So she decided to accompany her. And yeah, nothing really happens. They are selling the fentanyl patches, but nothing's happening. And Anne is like, you know what, wake me up when the shooting starts. So Dean is trying to play a card game with Bryce and Jen, but they aren't into it because they're still worried about Brienne and Baylor. Desna comes in, and this is where she ends up telling Jen and Bryce that she saw the girls. They seem okay. They're at their new foster home, and yeah, Dean ends up bringing up the Coonses, the two people that they were with when they were in the foster care system. And yeah, Jen and Bryce doesn't want that to happen to their girls, but Desna's like, they're okay, and Jen is like, tell me the address, Desna. You have to tell me the address. So yeah, of course, Jen and Bryce drive over there, and even though the social worker told them not to make contact with their daughters, they still do. Jen gets out of the van, she hugs them, and this is where Jen is like, because the girls are like, "Are we going home, mommy?" And Jen is like, "Yeah, we're going to do that," and she ends up abducting her own children. And Bryce is like, Jen, what the heck did you do? And Jen is like, shut up and drive, Bryce. Shut up and drive by Rihanna. So they're driving off, and while that's happening, everyone is at this. Not everyone. Georgia Is Georgia there? I don't think Georgia is there. So yeah, Virginia and Polly are at the salon. Desna's there as well, and Polly is like, Virginia, this is the time you need to go and tell Desna the truth about you telling a whole lot of information to to Georgia, and Virginia's like, okay, I'll do it. But before she can do it, Bryce and Jen walk into the salon with Brienne and Baylor, and Desna's like, what the heck? Have you lost your minds? What did you just do? And Jen is like, well, I wasn't thinking straight. Something just came over me. I just saw the girls. They were asking to go home, so I just had to bring them. I just had to bring them. And Desna's like, this is very, very bad, Jen. You made a very, very huge mistake. And this is also where Jen is making excuses. And Desna's like, you have been making so many excuses, but Jen, no one is forcing you to do stuff. Everything that you're doing it willingly. You're doing it because you said that you're going to do it. So stop making excuses and hold yourself accountable. And Jen, you need to hold yourself accountable for this current situation, because basically a notice was sent about Brienne and Baylor being kidnapped. And yeah, the police are looking for the girls, and they're also looking for Jenn and Bryce, because they know that these are the two who took them. So Anne and Uncle Daddy get the notice as well, and yeah, this is where Uncle Daddy is like, my grandbabies are in danger again, and Anne is like, well, it's our fault as well, and we should have taken better care of the girls and all of that stuff. And as these two are talking, a drive-by shooting occurs, and Anne survives, Jerry survives, but Uncle Daddy gets shot in the butt. So basically, Bryce and Jen decided to run away with the girls to Mexico. And yeah, basically they'll be there by tomorrow, and the police are after them. And this is where we get this dream sequence of Bryce and Jen living in a trailer with the girls, and the police ended up finding them after a few months, or maybe it's like a year or two. But yeah, even then, Jen's like, I'm not going down after without a fight, and she starts shooting at the cops. But yeah, I think that understandably, Bryce and Jen do realize that they can't continue running from the cops. They have to do the right thing. They have to take accountability of their own actions. So instead of driving off to Mexico, they stop by the police station, because they're like, Brienne and Baylor, we have to do the right thing, because if we do the right thing, then we will have the chance to get you guys back into our lives. And as you two are preparing to take Brienne and Baylor into the police station, Anne and Uncle Daddy walk up, and yeah, Uncle Daddy did a very nice thing. Uncle Daddy ends up taking the blame for kidnapping the girls, and Jen and Bryce have to play along. And yeah, Uncle Daddy gets arrested while Jen and Bryce are off the hook, and to still have the chance to get the girls back. And it turns out that Anne also did a very nice thing, because she was able to make contact with EJ, who was off on some cruise, and she ended up calling every cruise line to talk to EJ, and finally got hold of him, and he came running back. He really came running back, which, good for you, EJ, good for you. And this is where these two talk about who's going to take care of Brienne and Baylor. EJ is like, I'll take them. And yeah, Jen is like, you'll take both sisters, please don't separate them, because Bryce ended up raising your kid as well. And EJ is like, yeah, I'll take both sisters. And yeah, the Brienne and Baylor situation has been handled for now. I really hope that Jen and Bryce figure out a way to get the girls back into their lives soon. I think we only have like 5 more episodes left. So then we get to see Anne and Jerry, and Anne apologizes for her behavior. She's like, Jerry, I should have listened to you sooner. I should have understood your predicament, and I am sorry. And these two ended up kissing, and I'm like, oh, Anne, oh, hooking up with your employee, that's going to get very, very messy, very messy. And yeah, this is also where Anne is like, you know what, everything that I'm doing this for my unborn child, because I just want to go get out of here and start a new life, and that's why I was so focused on making a lot of money. But yeah, I apologize for my actions. And the episode, yeah, coming near the end, in this episode we see Tyson and Desna in Desna's apartment, and Desna ends up telling Tyson, agreeing to tell Tyson a whole lot. And I'm like, Desna, don't. Why are you telling all of this to Tyson? I understand that you like him. I understand that you like the connection that you have with him, but you're being way too trustworthy. You are being way too trustworthy. And yeah, I think that certain fans also think that Tyson might be working with the cops to bring Desna down. But let's see what happens. So Bryce and Jen can't sleep because they're still worried about their kids, even though they're with EJ. And Bryce is like, "Hey, want to go out to get some air?" And Jen is like, "No, baby, you go. I'll just stay in the bed." So Bryce is like, "Okay, okay." So it turns out that Bryce ended up going to the ring, and he's basically fighting other professional fighters in order to feel something, in order to cope with with all of the emotions that he's going through. And I'm like, Bryce, you're going to get hurt. You're going to get yourself hurt. And while that's happening, Jen decides to take more pills, which, oh no, this is bad. This is bad. I really hope that Desna, Polly, or Virginia ended up noticing certain changes in Jen's behavior, and they decide to do an intervention to help give Desna and Bryce the proper help that they need in order to cope with their feelings regarding their daughters. But let's see. Let's see what happens. So if I end up doing a written review of this for the Geek Theory, I'll paste a link to the review down in the comment section below as soon as it's posted. I enjoyed this episode. I did. I do think that both actors did a very good job when it came to showcasing the emotions as Jen and Bryce losing their kids. I really liked the scenes. They were well acted scenes. They were. But also, I do feel that Virginia's storyline is the weakest, in my opinion. It's as if the writers don't necessarily know what to do with her this season. And yeah, I missed Ken and Selena. I miss seeing them. I want to see how their relationship progressed. But yeah, let me know what you thought of the episode down in the comment section below. And until next time, stay happy, stay safe, stay blessed. See you guys later. Bye.